Ah, yes. You guys know what that music means. It is time for the Score eSports podcast. I'm, of course, your host as usual, Colin McNeil. Behind the boards, playing for the Horde in World of Warcraft is Josh Burry.
I actually play Alliance, but I used to play for the Horde.
Devastating. Sorry. That was a 50-50, and you had lost it.
We've got the best Dragon Ball Z character you never heard of, Gabriel Zoltan Johan.
I'm in the expansion pack. I'm in the DLC for Dragon Ball Fighters, I believe.
Can't wait. Can't wait for the alternate costume.
Oh, man, too. I can't wait to see your super art or whatever it's called.
I'm a Capsule Corp employee, just like a normal dude in the universe, and I don't even have, like, key at all.
I
just, like, throw objects.
Capsules, right?
I want to see that as a character. That sounds awesome.
Well, my whole thing is not to just totally get off on a tangent here, but that they should have Bulma, and she should just drop capsules, and that should be how she fights. Anyways, we're actually not here to talk about Dragon Ball Z Fighters, the video game, Dragon Ball Z, the anime. We're here to talk about League of Legends World Championship.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, heck yeah. This is kind of Gabe's wheelhouse. We've got a special guest coming up in just a moment who's going to help take us through that whole quagmire. You guys know him. It's Weldon Green. He's a performance coach with G2 eSports. He's worked with CLG, Fnatic, TSM in the past, and we've had him on the show, actually, guys, many moons ago during sort of the beginning time of the Score eSports podcast. Mm-hmm. We had a great conversation with him then, and I'm hoping that we can repeat. So without further ado, why don't we just bring Weldon on?
I will absolutely do that.
Thank you, Josh.
No problem.
We appreciate that.
All right, here we go. Weldon, can you hear us?
I can hear you fine.
Beautiful.
For the record, I also play Alliance, so sorry to all of the Horde Puritans out there.
I swapped sides, and it was for friendship. I betrayed the Horde for friendship.
That's not a friendship worth keeping, you know. Just
oh my God! As a stalwart Horde player, I'm very disappointed to hear all of this.
As a stalwart League of Legends player who's never touched an MMO.
You just want to talk about League of Legends.
Smart choice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I would say good morning to you, Weldon, because where we are in the Eastern Standard Time Zone, it's about 10:20 a.m.
Yeah.
But not so for you. You're in Korea.
Yes.
And what time is it over
and
there?
It's 11:30, I believe, the middle of the night.
PM.
Yeah.
PM.
Yeah, it's pretty dark outside. Yeah. 23:24 for those military.
Hey, military time. Yeah.
European time. Sorry. The better than a.
Yeah, it's about second coffee o'clock for me. So
oh God,
nice.
Yes. But yeah, we got some talking to do here, guys, and obviously League of Legends World Championship, we have groups finalized.
Coffee really perks me up, Josh.
Oh,
sorry,
that was terrible.
Sorry.
That was terrible.
Sorry.
Can we set that as the limit? Like that's the only
I'm
perk
done. Am I
joke
done
that-
with the podcast now? Like,
No,
do I
no,
have to leave?
No.
You guys don't understand that I have to go to faux with these guys every single day, and the entire trip is just filled with faux puns. It's like
Oh no.
no,
I expect better from them.
that was a faux pas. And, the restaurant says iPhone, so there's this nonstop iPhone. It's unbelievable how much puns have infiltrated esport. I always thought it was like an old dad joke kind of thing, but it's definitely an e-girl, e-guy phenomenon.
It's coming back around. Like I've lived long enough to see puns become cool again, which is really honestly, it feels good, man.
I'm actually happy to hear that. That the G2 guys are into puns.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of, like we said, you're in Korea. You guys are prepping for Worlds right now. We just got groups are finalized, I believe, Gabe. Is that correct?
That is
plans
correct.
have ended now.
That's a few minutes ago, yeah.
That's right, as of this recording. And Weldon, anyone who knows you, who's watched this show before, is familiar with you, knows that you're a performance coach in regards to mental conditioning and that side of the game. So I wonder if you could start off just by speaking to how G2 is preparing for Worlds mentally.
Not that different than pretty much any other team, I think. Mm-hmm. Like, we laid the foundation for mental resilience far earlier in the year. And so when we get to a tournament like this, we're just keeping on the same thing, not FFing scrims early, trying to make sure that any issues with the team are brought out into the forefront and ironed out, which I think a lot of teams are capable at, and some are are completely incapable of doing. So those are the ones that usually don't make Worlds. But at this point, there's a lot of similarity between how the clubs operate. Yeah, just keeping expectations moderated. I always say expectations don't matter, confidence doesn't matter. It's more about competence and what you like get on the rift, and to make sure that you value your opponents and their ability to play. And the squad is doing that and has been doing that. All of playoffs in EU from that point forward.
So
Is
this an approach that you took in the mid-season invitational as well? And how necessarily does it differ from perhaps the approach of Worlds last year, where it was G2's first time and they didn't do so hot that time around?
So I think that I'm not sure that I do much at like a boot camp like Worlds or a boot camp at like mid-season invitational. I try to have a curriculum going in and make sure that we go over every single point that we've gone over, throughout the split, and kind of rehash it and make sure that we try to keep those present in guys' minds. But a lot of the boot camp just comes from the boot camp itself. When you go to a different place to train, it ups the intensity of your focus. You get yourself broken out of your normal routines and normal patterns, and you play maybe on a different ladder, play it on Brazilian solo queue ladder. So, and even motivation takes care of itself. When you're at a tournament that's like a big tournament with a lot of prestige, and you want people to look at you and see a victor, people don't get unmotivated either, So the thing you have to contend with is like making sure people don't burn out, which is, a lot of monitoring, physical symptoms, and then making sure that any conflicts are both risen up so that they do percolate to the top, and then that everybody sits there until they're resolved, which, any kind of grown adult can make happen. So I think it's more about putting out fires when I'm at an event like this than it is about any sort of like progressive forward movement. Like the forward movement and the progressive preparation has to come way beforehand if there's going to be any sort of baseline mental resilience when you get to an actual tournament.
I actually agree with that sentiment too. You can't boot camp, confidence and fixing mental fragility. That doesn't seem like something that you can just get away with fixing in like a week or a couple days, right? So I do agree with that sentiment.
And for those who,
so I think a lot of the focus personally should be on the efforts of the players during boot camps. They're the ones who are really doing all the hard work. I don't do much but try to make sure that they are in a position to be able to work hard.
And sorry, I was just going to chime in. And just for those who aren't familiar, Gabe, you coached the University of Toronto League of Legends team, so you like to riff on the coaching kind of thing sometimes.
Best college team in the world.
There it is. And actually, to jump off of a question that you asked earlier, Weldon, you were talking about burnout and putting out fires and that kind of thing. Apparently, the G2 guys actually came to Korea a bit early, I'm told, on their own dime. Is there a worry? I mean, that eagerness is incredible to me. I was really shocked when I heard it. Is there a worry that that's actually a bit too much? Is there such thing as like boot camping your way into fatigue?
Yeah, I'm certain it's possible. I think that with it's not really any consideration here because first of all, 2 people were just going home. So
true,
right?
They're not really coming to boot camp early. They're just like going home early, which is the opposite of
and seeing family and relaxing.
And then on the other hand, the other guys really like if you don't like Korea for some reason, if you don't like being in Korea, you don't like the food or something, it might be a problem. But I mean, the guys love Korean food. They love Korean girls. Defeated their jet lag completely, before we even started training. So then we got a lot of higher quality training once the boot camp actually kicked into full gear. So I mean, there were literally no bad sides to it. And the thing you bring up about burnout, I think that like you get farther away from burnout, the more you're able to get into like a nice solid pattern with a good sleeping rhythm. And certainly people are tired. But that's what comes when you go into a stressful event and there's going to be a stressful result and it's the end of your, season, I guess you would say. You're facing elimination in the highest stakes tournament of the year. So of course, you put in more effort in the day and then you're tired at night. But that's not a result of coming in early or anything like that.
I wanted to ask Weldon. I'm kind of a Twitter monster, so I hang out on Twitter a lot. And even though I'm not always tweeting, like I'm always looking at tweets.
He's a lurker.
I'm a lurker. Yeah, first time poster, long time fan, whatever. And so I wanted to ask. We had Jensen tweeting at Perks about how he kind of wished he would have gotten into that group because
I bet
because Perks would have given him 2 free wins
from SKT and EDG. Honestly,
No, it's the other way around. See,
no, it was Jensen.
Perks tweeted that at Jensen.
No, Jensen also tweeted at Perks. So my question is like about smack talk generally and the mentality involved with that. I'm a huge fan of smack talk. We had Gilius on the show. He gave us some tips about smack talk.
Loco too.
Also Loco.
Yeah.
Even Amazing can he can mix it up with people.
I mean, there's some basic rules. Number 1, do real smack talk, right?
What does that mean? What does that mean?
That means don't be the big guy going after the little guy. Don't say things that where you don't like put your chip in. Like the people you're smacking to, right? They have to put their chips on the table, so you have to put your chips on the table too. You gotta risk something, or else it's not really smack talk.
So there's got to be a back and forth.
I mean, it doesn't have to be back and forth, but there's a power dynamic that exists in the world, right? I mean, it exists in relationships, it exists in business, it exists in performance, it exists in branding, right? Where there's big brands and little brands. So if you have somebody with all of the power and all of the fan love and all of the everything going after somebody who is like in an unpowerful position that has no voice, that has no recompense, it doesn't just feel right. So you got to do it. You got to do it correctly. If you're going after another big honcho, you can throw whatever you want at them. If you're going at somebody who has no voice, you have to give them a platform to respond to you and maybe retweet their responses. You got to. You can't just smother what you don't like. And then the other thing is, of course, you have to do it beforehand.
After's not fair.
Trash talk after is just people who can't handle themselves. Like the guys at the party who drink too much and throw up in the corner or whatever.
At my debate club at university, our motto is "It's only hubris if you lose."
Wow. So that's
otherwise it's just accurate.
Yeah, exactly.
I guess I want to come back to that. So you're totally cool with smack talk in terms of your players engaging in it as long as
I'm really worried when they can't do it, right? Because it means that they're not at peace with themselves, and they haven't thought about the worst possible outcome of the situation, and they haven't made peace with that, and so it means that they can't smack talk because they're just too afraid, and that's a horrible place to be in. If you meet somebody who can't smack talk because they have too much fear, then they're putting too much they should feel the emotional impact of losing and having it all come back to them. And they should at the same time be able to handle that and not have it come along with a whole bunch of problems with perception about how people see them and what that means. If you have a strong enough self-identity that it's not controlled by how other people perceive you and it's controlled about how you see you, then you can smack talk all you want. And so, I think of it as a diagnostic tool, I would say.
So by the same token then, Weldon, just to kind of extend that metaphor slightly further, if you had a player who was on the receiving end of smack talk and really seemed affected by that, then it's not so much that you would try and shield that person from it, but that's sort of an indication of maybe something else that you would address as part of your role on the team.
So personally, the way that I usually handle this is I try to give them tools with which to enhance their voice and their messaging. A lot of times, people who get on the receiving end of smack talk that get upset is because this power dynamic I talked about, somebody big going after somebody small, and they feel all of these and that person's haters usually start sending them death threats and DMs with really nasty pictures in them, and it's the internet is really freaking unbelievable. So it comes with massive emotional baggage that is not okay to talk about. People just think, oh yeah, handle the smack talk, sure, but how do you handle the thousands of people who are kind of unsocially conscious on the internet that are that person's fans that then jump on the bandwagon and do horrible things to that person? that's what you have to deal with. So then you get into this like, how do you handle social media conversation? And for that, I usually would work with the person on their messaging. Just how to be consistent and put out good content and start winning over your fan base so that you have adherents, and then getting rid of all of the kind of like nasty messages and focusing on the ones that are uplifting to you, and
Also,
handling it that way. Because it's not really dealing with a smack talk statement. It's more dealing along with the social, like the horde that comes along with it.
the backlash. Also, like we talked about before the show, mute notifications. Beautiful, beautiful tool.
Yeah.
Yeah, Twitter block is like one of the most underutilized tools in
Twitter
esports.
mute especially. Oh man.
Because I feel like when you block someone, it's like you are telling them
you also lose a follower, and that's bad branding.
Gabe always thinking about
I like
the bottom
blocking
line.
because it makes them know where they stand.
Oof.
Like you like to draw that line in the sand, then Weldon, let them know.
Sure. I mean, I don't want to see what they have to say, so.
That's why mute is so beautiful. You don't have to see what they say.
Man, I need to be more controversial on Twitter. You guys are all talking like you're like, I like to block, I like to mute. I've never had to do any of these things.
Yeah.
I have had to block people, but not a ton.
Until you've had to block
I wrote a piece.
True.
I wrote a piece defending Dardoch, and I had to mute a couple people here and there. So
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I think if you've written something contentious on the internet, you've had that one piece where people are like, there's like a dog pile or somebody retweets, and then you got it. Yeah, I mean, it just happens.
I guess I'm old because I've got hate email.
Yeah.
You're getting like snail mail that
Hate-
has
oh,
like
hate carrier
I haven't gotten that
pigeon.
yet. That's scary.
Hate carrier.
Yeah, that would be
pigeon.
freaky.
Oh man, I'd move.
Fucking Crow just like comes with a note, and starts cawing.
and
at
the
you.
note
Thrones,
and the note is like cut out letters from
Winter is
different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Winter is coming, but it's like they just took an issue of Cosmo and like cut up all the different fonts and made this weird mess.
Your Twitter haters send their regards.
Yeah, if it's Cosmo, you better run because it sounds like yandere. You know what I mean? Like,
Jesus.
I mean, maybe it was a guy fitness magazine, then you'd be like, all right, nothing's actually going to happen.
Have you guys? Because I know Korea is very notorious with fan interaction. Have you guys gotten like? I know I've seen like Twitter images and whatnot of Misfits receiving like fan mail and fan gifts and whatnot. Is that something that you guys have seen, or have you seen also like the other side of the
they
coin?
get recognized when they're out. I don't think anybody's quite located where we are yet, so that's useful.
Right.
But then, yeah, usually a lot of the fan interactions are moderated. Like in Korea, they just moderate everything, so it all just comes through the bootcamp organizers or through a contact with Kespa.
Right.
And and so it's less it's just as controlled as North American LCS kind of fan interaction is.
Got it. So they're the ones that remove the Cosmo cutout, ransom notes.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I want to ask one quick thing, Weldon, because you said you love the internet.
I know what this is.
Yes,
It's a Twitter question.
We talked about this. So I was lurking your Twitter. Like I said, I'm a Twitter lurker, and I saw a great tweet about how you got a comment from a guy with the handle Penis Hammerer, and he had a dog icon as his avatar or whatever. And
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it was just like a little like cute dog.
Yeah, I want to just ask about this tweet. Like, were you being sarcastic, or do you like legitimately love the irreverent nature of the internet, where a dude with a dog avatar named Penis Hammerer could give you some constructive feedback?
My vision of the world is meritocracy rules all, which is like, it should be the person who can get the thing done the best is the person who most deserves it. And things like dressing in a suit and going to work and being male and getting a promotion just because of that, like, kind of contradict that worldview, and it pisses me off. And so, if somebody wants to show up at work in like cut off jeans that are ripped and be female and do a better job than the other person, then they should get the promotion. And if somebody on the internet names themselves Penis Hammerer and has a picture of a dog and has just as legitimate a reason for speaking out as somebody who's got like a little blue validated icon by their name and has like some sort of like choreographed $100 headshot. Like, I think that's a beautiful thing, and I like how the internet equalizes the playing field. I like that you can be raiding in a World of Warcraft raid, and like one of the people can be a 35-year-old lawyer, and he can suck. And so he's not the raid leader, and the 14-year-old is. And yeah, that's awesome.
I just want to speak up for all the people who have very nice headshots and blue check marks on Twitter. We're good people. I think I earned my
shots
my promotion.
fired at Colin right now.
I know, I feel so targeted, man.
But screw you.
Weldon didn't say that he doesn't like those people. He just said that he cares.
I don't like them.
Okay, well, I take it back. He did say that, and he doesn't like you.
It was all just a clever scheme to try to get myself a Twitter validation.
Oh, you were going for you were sucking up to the Twitter guys who are going to grace you with the check mark. Okay, I see.
Yeah, exactly. Getting into, I guess, more of the nitty gritty part of this discussion.
He just wants the 280 characters that comes with it. That's all.
Oh yeah, is that? I thought that was only select people. Like it's not just everyone who's verified.
Yeah.
Oh really? Yeah. Who cares? I don't. Whatever.
How would they choose select people? Like how would they? This person makes high quality tweets.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
The mayor of Toronto got selected. I mean, I don't know what that means.
High quality tweets.
Yeah. Anyways, getting to the slightly more granular sort of world type stuff. The thing I keep hearing over and over again, we've talked about this on the last show with Amazing, is that G2 specifically is in the quote unquote group of death. You know, there's always one, right?
Oh yeah, it's always mine.
Yeah. So then you must have a pretty good answer for this. How, like, is there any tinge of among the players of, oh shit, we have the deck kind of stacked against us in the very first at the very first hurdle?
No, like this is really hard to explain to fans because fans live and die off of their team's their ability to defend and love their team and their team's credibility and what they appear to think about their team's strength and relative strength and weakness. But for a player, you have to understand that this is a tournament that has a single winner, and the best team wins. Period. And it's single elimination. So it's not a ranking thing. It's not a power ranking tournament. It's not a I don't know. It's not like a stick measuring contest. Like it's a winner takes all, single victor, single elimination tournament, and there's a one winner and everybody else loses. And players by and large don't give a crap where they lose. And if they do give a crap where they lose, then they're, first of all, going in with the wrong mindset. And secondly, it's not going to matter 4 years down the road. Nobody's going to care, and they're certainly not going to care. Maybe some fans will, right? But no actual player will care that they ever finished at a certain level in a tournament and then was quickly forgotten when we barely even remember the winners of these tournaments, other than when they start creating a legacy, right? So the path to the top of a tournament is largely irrelevant for a player who believes that they have to beat all of the best teams of the tournament in order to win it. That's all there is to it, and it's the truth. Now, of course, there's a dichotomy here. Of course, players don't mind being in an easier group, but they also don't care when they're in a difficult group, because if they want to win the whole tournament, they have to beat that team anyway. Now, you start getting into the economy of some things. I think most players are well off enough that they don't quite care about the prize pool differentiation. So some people are going to get a much higher prize payout because they're in an easier group than teams who are much stronger but are going to get eliminated early. And that's just, I don't know, that's just like luck of the draw, right? But you can't really think about that or be bitter about that because it's just math, probability.
I suppose so. And in terms of last year's performance, I know that you said, at this stage in the boot camp, there's no issues. If there's anything that needs a fix, you're not fixing it overnight, kind of thing. But mentality wise, when you have a performance like G2 had last year in a group that maybe some would call an easier group, and then you come into the harder group before the boot camp, sort of leading up to it, was there any talk amongst the teams of like, okay, we can't go out like we did last year, like we need to do better? Or is that simply, like you said, we don't care?
Well, I think that conversation started like the day after Worlds last year. So it doesn't have anything to do with group draw.
Right? Yeah. Also, Worlds is just such a different animal, right? Like, just by virtue of it being the biggest competition, international competition, the way the crowd works at Worlds is always just so fundamentally different, especially now that you guys are, not on home turf necessarily. You weren't last year either, but like you're in China, you're against a Chinese team in your group, there'll probably be some home field advantage, some crowd advantage associated with that. So
does Weldon believe in that?
Yeah, that's I was
Honestly,
just thinking
like,
as you were talking. I'm like, is that even a thing?
Yeah.
What do you think, Weldon?
Do I think that there's an advantage to home turf?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, of course, absolutely. I mean, it's well proven in multiple different sports that the home field advantage exists. So why wouldn't it apply also in esport?
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
I mean, because ultimately in both cases, it's like
I think
a mentality
in one case you have noise canceling.
You don't think the Chinese teams who are like so motivated that they're boot camping together in a single facility, and like that they're all of their ex pros who didn't make Worlds are all there like position coaching them, and that they're spending more money than ever before, and that they're going to go on stage and like try not suppressing their egos more now than they've ever suppressed them before in order to like function as a group together, and that they're not more willing to take one for the team so that they can like win for their nation. Like I'm pretty sure you could see how like home field advantage like works on the structure, the system of a team to make it and a good thing.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
do you think that
and especially really powerful with China this year? I think it's really cool what they're doing, and I hope that it opens up a lot of conversation about the future of like national tournaments, not national tournaments, but tournaments in these different nations.
It's really interesting that you say that, actually, especially in contrast to last year's Worlds, where help was pretty few and far between for North American teams. What I recall is that Immortals sent their players to help teams out, but beyond that, no other North American organization really helped the world's cause.
They didn't like send their players. They just players, wanted to go, and other teams offered to hire them, and other teams did as well.
Okay.
Like TSM had the opportunity to hire, multiple different position coaches. We already had position coaches, so we didn't really need to. And C9 didn't really know how to implement them, so I'm not really sure if they had their own or if they had their own subs at the time or what. But like, I just think, but no, there were definitely other teams that and other players that wanted to go and have that option. And I think that TSM and C9 were pretty good training partners at Worlds last year. I think that we both came back early in order to defeat jet lag, and so we trained each other exclusively for a number of days, along with another team that came to America early. Or I think we arranged maybe another 2 teams, so there were a quad, of 4, and tried to make sure that we could get there and beat jet lag and train together.
Like another 2 North American teams?
No, I think it was a...
Got it.
Man, I want to see inside this crazy Chinese group camp. That's right. I'm calling it a group camp. That I want to just be there in that room and see like these people. We got to do this.
Like everyone banding together.
Yeah,
like 3 position coaches over Xiaohu and Uzi.
But the thing for me is like when we're talking about scrims, right? We're talking about a situation where some people are going to have those dedicated, and I'm pulling a little bit from the interview that Weldon that you just did with Invent. Some teams are going to have those dedicated, like you're practicing with this team a lot.
Yeah, your training partners and your testing partners. I think it was.
That's how you put it, Weldon. And for me, this is like there's politics here, right? There's feinting and there's maneuvering. But to have everyone just be like, you know what, we're one region, it's on our home soil, let's do this. Like that is awesome. Like I would just love to be there. I don't know. Sorry.
And it's amazing, and it's a great development. And there's a dark side too, which is that how in the world do you scrim against a Chinese team now?
Right, because they're so focused on helping each other.
Everything they do is immediately transmitted to all the other teams.
Yes.
Sitting across the room. Like,
right.
Like not just your picks, right? But like they could literally walk over and like they're all scrimming in the same room. They've shown pictures. They could just watch you play, see what you do. So how in the world are we supposed to scrim EDG or is it AHQ there with them?
Yeah.
EDG, I don't know if HQ is there, but if World Elite would be there too, and and then
RNG. We don't know when we're supposed to train against them, how we're supposed to train against them, when we're supposed to stop training against them because of RNG being in our group. So
right.
It makes that tough.
Well, guys, we'll see if it helps the Chinese cause, because the gentleman we spoke to last week, amazing, wasn't exactly
very positive.
Thank you for finishing that sentence. I wasn't quite sure how to put that.
But that's based on like past Chinese performance. I don't think
that's
based
how else
on,
can you make a how else can you evaluate
current Chinese
will
performance?
China do better than before? Who knows? Maybe not. But will China do better than if they did not do this? Yes, I think that's fair.
Weldon, you obviously you're from the world of League of Legends. However, G2 has teams and other esports, and I'm kind of curious to know if you've ever worked with them, say the CS:GO squad, if that's ever come up.
We had a workshop because they boot camped at Dojo in Berlin, where I also work, and so I came by and we went over the basics of resilience building and training. And I worked at the CLG CSGO squad for 2 months almost. When I was with them, that's about it. The problem is that League at the time is just really clearly the big horse, and I'm not necessarily early, like late teens, early 20-something, kind of like just doing my passion. I'm more needing to support 4 children now, and so I had to go where the actual industry is.
Right.
And so as much as people like CSGO, the fact is that League of Legends is an industry and CSGO is, you look at the scale of the player base, it's quite an absurd difference between 18 to 23 million to 110 plus million players per month. So there's just like a scale issue there.
Well, they did just get it in China, though, the official release in China.
This is true. We're going to see that bumped up quite a bit, I would say.
I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe. See if they can beat Crossfire.
Yeah, that's the problem, eh?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, I would say Kenny S and Shoxy have pretty good mental fortitude. So whatever you did a good job.
Yeah, they're awesome.
Well, let's talk about more groups, I think.
Sure.
Weldon, I know you're probably not in the habit of making crazy calls. X team is going to win X group, but I do have the.
I do, but it's just really mundane and kind of boring. But I always make the calls.
Are you always right though?
No.
Where's the fun in that?
Damn it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I always pick my team. So.
All right. Well,
so we can skip your group then.
I know who you're picking for your group. Clearly,
I'm a fan. I'm not an analyst, so I pick the teams that I want to win.
Right.
So as a fan and an ex TSM man yourself, I got to ask, are they going to make it out of the, quote, easiest group they've ever had? I'm quoting Gabe now, actually.
I've already predicted multiple times a G2 TSM final, so it's pretty clear.
Ooh. Wow, that would be quite a scenario.
That'd be hilarious.
Yeah.
Is that's the fan, though? Like,
I would hope so.
I need to know, is that the fan? Like, is everything I know a lie, Weldon? That's what I'm trying to ask here.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh shit.
My paradigm has been shattered.
I would like to know, just generally, what you think of the other Western teams attending, how their groups may pan out. I know that TSM is part of a group with Misfits.
All right, so let's just go through group by group.
Yeah, sure.
Give me a group and list the teams in. Let's start with group 1. We got SKT, EDG,
HQ,
and
C9.
now C9.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it's going to be SKT, EDG. I don't know. That's just my feeling.
In that order?
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, now that we're in this group and we're talking about SKT, if you were aware of the controversy and pseudo scandal surrounding Bang and how that affected his performance during his time in LCK Summer, I was curious, working with a player who kind of has that happen to them, how does that work? Because it's kind of fundamentally different from working with a player who, as we talked about before,
lots of like dinners and lunches and conversations and chances to talk about and just like vent your feelings out. You need a support structure, so you got to make sure that they have like time to go and get with their family, time to go and get with their friends, like identify who they are, like outside of being defined by a group of people on the internet. So they have like a form of self-identity. So that means, lots of conversations and social obligations with real people.
Right.
And conversations about things other than League of Legends and that world.
Now, Gabe, speaking for the non-hardcore League of Legends fan base and myself, hi. Could you give me the quick TLDR on that controversy for everybody listening who's not quite up to speed?
Oh yeah, so Bang SKT's AD carry was on stream, and he had made a I would want to say he was being kind of insulted in his stream chat and made a comment kind of rebuking it and talking about how he makes a lot of money.
He was dismissing the person in a way that would later be seen as disrespectful.
For sure. And it actually culminated in a lot of ire from fans and actually a warning from KESPA, the governing body of Korean esports. So.
Yeah, it was. That's an interesting thing to bring up, and I really love that point, Weldon. That like, I guess for a lot of these players, it's easy to fall into the trap of being like, I am
the game
Perks. You know, I'm not Luca. I'm Perks. I'm this, and like even I remember Daigo talking about how he almost views his in-game persona as a different, like this is Umehara. And this isn't who I am, but I feel like I'm somehow connected to this other person.
Daigo, of course, the legendary Street Fighter player.
That's a quite common way to hit a high performance kind of like status, is to really adapt an athletic persona that allows you to take risks and do things that you feel like you wouldn't normally do in real life. It's kind of like sequestering athletics in a box. And athletes do this all the time, and they're incredibly mentally resilient in that box. And then you see an athlete, for example, who, let's say, then beats their wife or can't handle a fan interaction and like punches them. And you see this incredible unmental resilience elsewhere in life where they can't even handle their emotions at all. So, I mean, that's a really common way to, as a human, and we do this all the time, be really, really good at one thing and really focus on and have a lot of motivation to be strong in that area. And then yet not have the intuitive emotional control to transfer those skills to somewhere else. And that's actually the default state of how it is that we wire up when we're building a craft or something like that. So one of the things I like to do is try to immediately from square one, like start translating those skills out of sport into other aspects of life, because that is what elite sport gives to the denizens and participants of elite sport, is that when you leave this industry, when you leave this athletic level, so I'm not talking about people who work in elite sport, I'm talking about the athletes themselves. People perceive you as being set behind a little bit from your peers because they've been like building careers and going to college and maybe even working their way up companies. But in reality, if you focused on developing this skill set of like applying your emotional control that you develop in the athletic pursuit into other places in your life, you get really far ahead of your age group in terms of like capabilities and emotional maturity. So I think that's a really common thing, and it is like kind of the default mode. And I encourage people to think about finding ways of creating that, of attaching that persona and its actions to themselves and saying like, this is me acting and this is my strength and this is also my weakness, instead of saying like it is that caricature's kind of like strength and weakness.
I guess we're still sort of talking about Group A. Like, is there anything else that needs to be said about this group? Like, is C9 gonna? Is there any world?
Got it tough. C9 has it very tough. AHQ obviously has it tough, but they have lesser expectations upon them than C9. So C9 has it very tough. EDG has it the most tough.
Right.
SKT, like, literally, I mean, they can't really do much wrong. Obviously, they're probably going to win. They have a lot of fear built into their opponents already. And if they lose, people are going to be like, well, they did win Worlds like a bajillion times in a row, so at least we get to see something new. There'll be just as many people happy as there are sad.
Yeah, if they win,
they'll get a well-deserved vacation, and they'll feel crappy about it because they'll be the roster that lost in groups and so they'll never recover individually, like mentally probably from that emotional scarring. But I think the org will be fine. So I don't know. Yeah, so I have high hopes for SKT and I have high hopes for EDG, and I don't have very high hopes for C9. But God, I want them to win. I think it only comes at the expense of China, which means they will draw a lot of ire. Maybe actually they won't draw any ire. Maybe EDG will draw it all for them. So.
An interesting thing is that if SKT wins this year, they will have won over half of the world championships in existence.
Oh man,
that's pretty good metric. Pretty good stat.
So
that's not bad.
Well, they're not going to make the finals, so.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, no, of course not.
It's reserved for G2 and TSM, is my understanding.
I just want to see Jensen do well at an event like this. Like, I would love if they could get out of groups and he could really like light it up. That for me.
Do well at an event like this, he needs to do well at a lesser stakes event. So.
Damn!
Yikes!
Shots fired.
Like it's just more pressure now. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know exactly what I'm expecting from him. I think the expectations are the issue here. Not so much the level of performance. I think his level of performance is realistic. I think the expectations he has on him are not.
Well, I am not contributing in a positive way to that, Weldon, because I have huge expectations for Jensen. But you see this guy sometimes, and you're just like unreal. But I guess we'll see what happens to him in Group A. It's potentially going to be a rough ride for him. So.
Yeah. Let's go to Group B.
Now, speaking of teams that won't make the finals of TSM and G2, obviously.
Right.
We've got Group B, which has got Longzhu,
none of TSM.
Immortals, Gigabyte, Fnatic.
Yeah, none of TSM or G2, so...
Well, that's what I mean. Like, why are we even talking about it? No.
Longzhu, Immortals, Gigabyte Marines, and Fnatic?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Seems like it's going to be Longzhu and Gigabyte Marines going through, isn't it?
Ooh, okay.
Why do you say Marines?
I just...
Because they beat TSM, they have the pedigree.
I think it's because they're just crazy. But no, I think okay, Longzhu, Fnatic, Gigabyte Marines, and who was the other one?
Immortals.
Immortals. Yeah. No, I think I've had my eye on Ole since he came to the LCS. I saw him in the first split after they traded for him, and I was like, oh, somebody scouted this mofo. Like, he didn't have a good synergy with his team, and he didn't have good synergy with his AD carry at the time, but like he was just monstrous. Like, the engages I saw in like the first few weeks of the LCS were unreal, and I was like, okay, if Immortals is going to do well at all, it's going to be by being carried by this guy. And then they got Xmithy, sorry.
Yeah.
Jake. I think his name's Jake.
Yes.
It's just Jake, yeah.
You got it.
Panic there for a second. And I was like, oh, now we have a foundation, because he's always been like a super solid playmaker. He's always like had a plan. He's the kind of person who like knows what he wants to do and why he wants to do it in the early game, so somebody who could like lead basically shot call really squarely. And yeah, they just coalesce. So I'm really impressed. I think that they're going to. I wonder if they're going to beat the raw insanity of Longzhu. Just the like raw like skirmishing and team fighting ability. That's the real challenge, right? Is that here you have people who might be able to play on their level for like 4 or 5 different plays sequentially, but that's because they're concentrating really hard on the plays, and they're managing to pull them off. Whereas Longzhu's not even concentrating on the plays; they're just doing it normally, because that's how you even have to play any game at all to survive in a single LCK scrim week, and then they're just focusing on winning fights and skirmishes, and the drop of a hat, they'll get an advantage, and then that'll be the end of the game. So, yeah, I think it'll be really challenging for any team to upset Longzhu. I think they're even more resilient than most teams versus Gigabyte Marines. I think Gigabyte Marines can surprise any tournament, excepting teams like Longzhu, who just have I would say like a kind of a Samsung White-esque quality, where they're just like rapidly good at the game, and you give them an inch and it's just over.
Oh,
I think it'll be Longzhu plus. Gosh, I just have to say Immortal. Yeah, the analyst in me has to say Immortal. Sorry, Fnatic.
So I was gonna say, as someone
but
who works in Europe, you've seen Fnatic kind of do really well in the regular season. They didn't do so well in Rift Rivals, and even beyond that, in playoffs they kind of faltered, lost to Misfits.
I didn't see Fnatic doing well in the regular season. I saw them finding a composition that worked and then just playing that exclusively, not training anything else.
But results-wise, it did well, right? So just by virtue of that, why are you...
But that doesn't mean you know how to play League of Legends. That just means you know how to play, like, cheese.
Oh,
it's not the same game.
Of course. But so is that why you are so down on Fnatic? You find them to be a very cheesy team, a team that only ekes out wins?
Listen, if you find a team that plays in that way, the first question you have to ask yourself is, do they believe that they can actually win playing real League of Legends? And if the answer is no, then what chance do they have? If they don't even believe themselves so much that they can play on par with the best teams in the world, that they therefore are looking for a shortcut to beating them, or like a cheesy way of winning, then you have the answer right there to their fate.
Dang.
The answer to their fate.
I know. I watched them in playing stage, and they still didn't look good until the very end, right? Until the chips were down. So that
it's just
they like cheese, eh? Like, were they like cannon rushing or like six pooling?
No,
sorry, wrong game.
Wrong game.
They're an interesting addition to this group in my mind because of what you said, right? Like, literally the other three teams in their group are insane. Like, Longzhu is actually just an insane team. They'll do everything they can to gain an advantage. Same with the Gigabyte Marines. They're insane by virtue of almost... It's an almost like more desperate kind of insanity, but still insane, yeah. Right? Like, they will...
Now, the benefit Fnatic has is that it's best of one, and they are individually skilled enough to win team fights versus all of these teams. Mm-hmm. Whereas Gigabyte Marines kind of sometimes aren't. Mm-hmm. So they might get an advantage and then not be able to win a team fight. Mm-hmm. And also they're in a group that is more liable to draft similar to them. I think that I can see Immortals drafting, like carry tops and going crazy with that, and I can see Longzhu for sure, drafting like carry tops instead of like all tanks everywhere. Mm-hmm. And I think Fnatic is going to do a similar kind of thing. I don't see them as the kind of team that is just going to go like, we're going to pick our like scaling, ardent sensor, purchasing support, and then go with two solid tanks and like try to win through team fights. Like, it feels to me like they might just, it's best of one, so they might try for some like cooler stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think they're in a group where maybe they won't get outscaled as much because the other teams aren't also going to be picking those kinds of like group as 5 and win team fight. So maybe they get early advantages and then win team fights. So yeah, I think for me that like first place is locked and 2, 3, 4 is wild card.
Yeah.
Got it.
Wild card isn't their wild card region, as in like any of them can draw a joker.
For sure. Moving on to your group, Group C. We've got G2 eSports, which of course we know is going to come number one, no question there. And then we got Royal Never Give Up, Samsung Galaxy, 1907, Fenerbahce eSport, which is the best name in the group stage.
You said it wrong.
You said it wrong.
Fenerbahce.
Fenerbahce.
I can do it.
See, I have to put my hand like,
in this kind of gesture.
1907.
Yeah, you did it.
I said 1907.
There was kind of like this. There was like a Fenerbahce.
Okay, Turkish team, TCL first seed with an emergency sub, actually. Emergency substitute Crash from the LSPL. Replacing... It's not even Turkish.
Let him speak.
Replacing Move, who is their starting jungler in the TCL. Weldon, first off, what do you think of the addition of Fenerbahce to your group?
Oh, you said it the right way.
Yeah, of course. We're on air. I have to.
Literally have not seen them play a game.
Right. So, okay. Do you...
I have. I think that for us, the narrative has been, for the guys, the narrative has been like, whoever gets in our group deserves to be there. They're the strongest team. So, like, if somebody beat C9 and came into the group, most of the fans would be like, oh, phew. like C9's not added to the group of death to make it even harder. We have this great like silly wildcard team, but like if a team actually beat C9 and made it into a group, they would have been stronger than them in the first place. And so we're just going to assume that this team is as strong as C9 and as strong as Fnatic, and we're going to assume that it's just as hard. So we'll put them up there with RNG and SSG, and we'll say that it's going to be us, and then obviously, gosh, I would say last year's RNG, but this year I think Samsung's going to pull it out.
Why do you say that?
I think last year RNG was just a little bit stronger bot lane, and this year Samsung's basically the same, and RNG's a little bit weaker. So,
Okay.
Now, for Group D, guys, we have Flash Wolves, we have Misfits, TSM, and Team
World
W. Well, I think I thought they were
They're
not
called
technically
World
World
Elite.
Elite. I thought they were WE.
Are you questioning their
I thought this
elite
was like
status?
a Dota 2 thing, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's definitely not Defense of the Ancients 2. It's totally Dota 2.
It's a
It's
legally distinct
definitely OG,
trademark.
and OG doesn't mean anything.
wait,
No,
so
no, it
it's
doesn't.
Flash
start at the top again.
Wolves.
Flash
Misfits.
Wolves, Misfits, TSM, WE.
Yeah.
Oh man, sorry, it's past midnight here now.
Yeah.
All right,
Exciting group,
TSM,
eh?
obviously, and then I want to say Flash Wolves because they're just so consistent. But I'm really hating on the EU teams, aren't I?
Yeah.
But this is the one that it's fun to hate on, I think, Welder. Like, I think a lot of people have pointed to Misfits in this group, and they're just saying, like,
You're out of your element,
what is the
Donnie.
path to
Yeah.
It's like
Victory.
Splice last year. They
Yeah,
came for the experience.
Exactly.
Oh,
We
no.
came
got the
for the
trip.
airline miles, everybody. Woo!
Yeah. They got the trip. They got the accommodations. They got some
Yeah, they got.
some fun League of Legends. Yeah.
But did they fly here on Jin Air and get and get the sad plane as a result?
Yeah.
Is this a sad plane? I don't know.
Can
That's
they
really
pull the
quick.
rabbit out of
TSM.
the hat?
Going out first, and I really want Flash Wolves to pull a number 2 there because I want to see them in the quarters. And I think that I want them to be there as a scrim partner, obviously, in the later rounds.
So in
too.
in total, if we're taking all your group predictions, you think that only one Chinese team is going to make it through to the bracket stage? If I'm reading this correctly.
World Elite is there too. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I said EDG and also RNG would. Oh no, I said RNG is going to be beat by Samsung.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you did.
Huh. Aren't Samsung's finalists from last year?
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's fair to put them above a Chinese ranked team.
So we talked about this like home field advantage, this boot camp advantage, but it's going to yield actually worse results
Wow,
than years before. No, if you think about it, because
Yeah, but it's going to yield much better results than if they didn't do it.
if they, so you would think
Right.
that EDG wouldn't even make it out if you also were pretty hesitant on EDG, weren't you? Because you were like, I really want C9 to actually beat them. So could you imagine a scenario actually where
man.
no Chinese teams make it out?
Oh,
So I think Chinese teams are going to be really strong in the first week and equal in the second week.
Mhm.
And now we have 2 best of ones. So it's a question of how much of the advantage from the first week can they pull in the second week and not throw games. So if I see that working out as like a pendulum, then it should be that that the advantage doesn't give them much other than like a good head start. But I think that's only going to last the first 2 days because the meta solidifies around other people's games too. So I think that if you see your Chinese team play in your group before you actually have to play them, then advantage is kind of nullified. So yeah, I think actually so these are the optimistic results, just looking at the groups and saying like, hey, the wildcard teams are going to be the lowest, and then we'll just rank the teams by region order, basically in terms of strength. But the reality is a lot of it is going to play out in terms of when the teams see each other for the first week, like who sees who first, so who can hide their champs the longest and their champ pool the longest, and who has trained the comps that are closest to the meta, which is more of a crapshoot than you'd think. You can get one champion off in terms of the meta and then just end up with a comp that will not win the game. Period. And unless you're the kind of team like SKT or Longjude that can win the game anyway, or TSM or G2, then you're just going to lose. So, yeah.
I think it's interesting you say that because the meta going into Worlds this year is more stable than it has been in years past. So last
Ever.
year, yeah, right,
ever.
right.
Well, maybe not season 1, 2, 3. I don't really know.
Yeah, but last
there's
year,
it's a meta, right? But
right, last year, there was the removal
They
of lane
literally-
swaps. They just
eliminated lane swaps.
and then the year before was the Juggernaut patch, right, where there was
in,
such a shakeup in champion.
Like 6-0, like 5-0 first weeks or whatever, 4-0, 3-0 first weeks and 0-3 second weeks.
Yeah,
'Cause
exactly.
People were adapting to the meta, like literally over the weekend.
Yeah. So I guess my question is, because you were talking about, how understanding the meta is so difficult this time around. Why is that the case when it's so much more stable this time around than it was in previous years?
Because it's not a stationary thing. It's like a game of rock paper scissors. You have a meta. Okay, so you have whatever's strongest. So then whatever is strong against that becomes stronger, and then people start figuring out how to play with it, and then that nullifies the first meta, and then whatever is strong against that becomes the thing that's being picked. And so it's just a revolving door. And when the stage hits, so like everybody's scrimming, and we're kind of like advancing and progressing through the meta, and then when the stage hits, like some teams are going to be on the thing that is like going out, and some teams are going to be on the thing that's like countering the thing that's going out, and some teams are going to be on the thing that's countering the thing that's going out. So like it just depends on where you are in the revolving door of the meta, in terms of your scrim and your team identity at that point.
Are you? I know you said you saw 0 games of Fenerbahce, but are you Fenerbahce?
Yes.
Are you guys looking to the play-in stages at all, or do you think other group stage teams look to the play-in stages at all to kind of suss out and determine what the meta might be?
100%, because you want to see, like, you have no idea from scrims what meta is in terms of like what's going to actually show up on stage.
Right.
You hope that it's right, but it could be literally
the
not
opposite,
the same thing at all. It could be all of a sudden everybody gets on stage and none of these comps function because of the pressure. And so, everybody's looking at play-ins. But then everybody's also looking at who the play-in teams are scrimming with, because the meta develops in pockets, right? So they might not have encountered because they're all where were the play-in stages played?
In Wuhan.
They're already in Wuhan. Okay, yeah. So they're like hours and hours away, and no access to being able to scrim them at all. So they're scrimming in a little like cesspool of their own, and we're over here in our little like pond, and so we're observing, but we're wondering like how many of the picks are kind of like translating across to that pool over there, like through the streams,
right?
The Skype streams and stuff like that, and whatever else is going on. So we don't know until the two metas like merge for 3 days before we go on stage, and then poof, we'll see what comes out.
That makes sense. One thing I really wanted to quickly touch on, and I don't want to go too deep into it. I just want to know, last year there was a little bit of controversy regarding some leaked scrim VODs and comments about Korean and I think Japanese nationalistic tendencies, and I don't want to talk about that. All I wanted to know is if that has affected in any way your time in Korea right now in terms of scrims for the team.
No.
Or treatment or anything to that effect.
Nope.
No, period.
No, period. The
hard return.
Yeah.
Save as, click the X.
Yeah.
Shut down computer. Okay, guys. We are burning daylight here. Actually, for Weldon, he's burning the midnight oil, actually, is what he's doing. Before we let you go to presumably get a small amount of sleep, is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't? This is eSports.
We function as like going to bed late, getting up late. So
yeah, you sleep at 5 a.m., wake up at 3 p.m.
That's true.
Exactly, our morning, we have breakfast at 1.
Oh, goodness. Nice. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. That's when we have our team breakfast.
Oh, my goodness.
For life, man.
Damn, I don't feel so bad now about keeping you up, actually.
I mean, I get up early and I work for a couple hours. Then I go eat breakfast with the team after our morning meeting, but yeah.
Well, I hope...
them breakfast is another thing.
Oh, from one tired person to another, I hope Korean coffee is really good.
Really strong.
Yeah.
It's I'm unfortunately, some of you might know I live in Finland, and the Finnish drink more coffee per capita than almost any other country.
Oh, really?
Okay.
And
Yes.
they have this coffee that is just like, it's like taking the dregs and then grilling them on a fire and then dredging them again and then mixing them with sand and then making coffee out of it. It's like disgusting. Like finished coffee tastes like muddy dirt that was consumed in aardvark and then pooped out. And yet somehow I started to drink coffee there because it's mandatory, because it's dark 23 hours of the day. And so with 1 hour of sunlight and like an 8-hour workday to get through, you just have to drink coffee. Also, they break for it about every 10 minutes. So it's kind of like smoke breaks in most countries.
Guys, I think I need to move to Finland.
So I got used to it. I got used to drinking this tar, and now other coffee just tastes like nothing to me. It tastes like drinking water or something weak, and weak-willed. It doesn't. It might have the same caffeine content, but it doesn't actually kick me in the face.
Oh, man. That's
why I'm never going to drink coffee.
He's on the strongest drug, you know? You can't...
I will never feel at home outside of Finland anymore drinking coffee.
Interesting.
Maybe I don't want to go to Finland.
I do, and I want to try this coffee because I like to try weird coffee, and this sounds delicious, so I can't wait.
He literally said it kicks you in the face and tastes like muddy dirt. How could this sound
Yeah, that was not the most appetizing review.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's you got to try everything.
People like that kind of experience.
That's true.
Yeah.
Josh is a masochist.
Plus, you can saw
before Josh goes booking that ticket to Finland, Weldon, I do just want to give you a chance to say anything that we didn't get to touch on, or to give any shout outs, or just say hello to the G2 fans.
Yeah, if you don't know me, I guess probably you know me now a little bit since you listened to this interview. But I'm like I said, I'm a coach, and you can check out what I do on YouTube. I think I don't know what the channel name is, but I think you can find MindGamesGG, mangames.gg on my website. You can find YouTube there somewhere, and it's where I put out all of the content. I have a show of my own, the Ask Weldon Show. You just ask me questions, I answer them. So if I didn't answer your question here on the show, you can ask it to me again, and you'll make the video probably.
And he does not discriminate based on Twitter handle.
No,
that's
yeah.
weird.
That's weird.
You happen to have a good question, and your name is like stick this thing up your butt. Then, I'll say, hey, Mister, stick this thing up your butt. Thanks for the question.
Oh man, I feel like you're inviting so many trolls into your video
Yeah,
now.
no, the YouTube comments are
That
going
was
to
a
be...
bad idea.
Yeah.
Well, this conversation has really got me hankering for that second coffee. So, Weldon, with that, we'll let you go and we'll end the show. And I just want to say thank you so much for making time late at night in Korea for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you so
Have a
much.
good
Good luck as well. The last time European team had a coach with a man bun, they made semifinals. So
What a statistic!
Cut it off. Now I'm not going to. So
no, you'll make
I learned
finals.
some-
There you go.
it's really important.
Take a step up.
Was that
So-
OG?
Yes, it was Origin.
Their coach.
Hermit.
Okay.
Right.
I have like what? We have like 3 parts sugar then for that mixture because
Yeah.
we have Thea and Sven and wait, Jesper was not on the team, was he? At that
No,
point?
he was. He was. Yeah.
He was.
Yeah, he was Niels. He was as Niels instead
We
of
have the
Sven.
man bun, we have Niels 2.0, and we have Mythic.
Perfect.
We're good.
Oh,
sounds
man.
like the recipe for advancement rather than semifinals.
And we have
so,
we have perks.
yeah.
We can't-
A winning combination. And with that, once again, we'll thank you and good luck in the group stage.
And beyond.
Of course.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Weldon.
Cheers.
So
Wow.
You know, I wasn't gonna mention his hair because what I was thinking was like, oh man, that's like a samurai bun, and G2 are the samurai.
The samurai?
So I was like, maybe he's channeling some.
Maybe he's gonna wear the mask that Lothar wore
Yeah.
during the EULCS.
Yeah, that was quite a
spring
mask.
finals. Yeah, absolutely.
It's interesting. Yeah.
Really channel that cosplay.
Although I don't know if you want to cosplay like Japanese warrior in South Korea. I don't know if there's any like political
Or in China,
or in
specifically.
China. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's true.
yeah,
Um,
could be a little
it's-
dicey.
Yeah.
Probably want to avoid it.
What a weird note to end the show on.
Well, we don't have to end on that if you don't want to. Like, you know, I'm at the board right now. We could just talk about something else that's not weird if you want.
I like weird stuff.
Okay.
I'm gonna say for Josh Bury,
Hello.
For Gabriel Zoltan Johan.
Not as big a fan of weird stuff.
I'm going to make that your lower third for next week. Gabriel Zoltan Johan, not as big a fan of
Just
weird stuff.
remove the Twitter handle. Yeah.
I am Colin McNeil saying until next time, Fenerbahce.
Fenerbahce.
Fenerbahce. God damn it. Fenerbahce.